Hello, America and the world. Welcome to another episode of Life After Lockup. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are just happy to be a part of your life and a part of what you do every day. Call somebody, call a friend, call an enemy, call somebody and let them know that Life After Lockup is on. We're not going to go through a whole lot of preliminaries today, but because we have a special guest that is all the way from Nashville, Tennessee by way of Alabama, and we're going to hear her story. But before we do that, we want you to know that you can always tune in, catch this show on Paducah2.org. If you need information about our ex-offender support group, you can call 575-3823. We're going to put that out there before we get started because I might forget as we go on through the show. We want to welcome Sister Darlene Pendleton. Welcome to Life After Lockup. God bless you. And we're just going to talk now, you and I, because you have a fascinating story, and I want the people to hear what you have to say. I heard a little bit of it at church yesterday, but I want you to start back in when you mentioned about being 18 and 19 years old. I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about what happened.
Back in Alabama when I was 18 years old, right before I turned 19, a group of girls, we got together to go out and party like most of us do. And what we did was say, well, we're going to be calm, cool, and collective. And so we got out there, we all went out, we basically sold drugs and did most of that type of setting. And right before we can get to there was a young man that was attracted to me. And Alabama have a different type of laws and people still segregated. They don't want you to get in an environment with a racial group. So in that time, there was a person that was interested in me, and there was it was a struggle doing a type of relationship. And we were there, and we were on our way to the club, and so we went out to party with this young man, and when we got there, everything went a different way. He was interested in me, and I wasn't that, interested in him. So I always carried a gun for protection and stuff like that, and we just carried that because of the lifestyles that we actually was living. So we was like in the hood. Right. That's what we did in the hood. We carried guns. Right. And so right after that, there was a couple of shots. It was just like a big confusion went down and a commotion went down. So after that, I was shooting because my purse got taken. So I was trying to find out who had got my purse and whatever. So I was just shooting because usually I have money, large sums of money. And right after the shootout, the young man got in his car and drove off. And never heard anything about it. My purse was left in a car, which I let the girl that was with me use my purse, and it was left in the car where she had been in trouble before. I had never been in trouble. And the purse was left in the car, so they traced it back. And then the next thing I know, my grandmother's always a praying woman, saved, and she said, oh my God, somebody came to my door with a card, said from homicide. Well, I didn't even know what homicide was.
Oh, okay.
So I said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, oh, what have you done? You done did something. Homicide or somebody's dead. And so I'm thinking, oh, Lord. And so after that, she called down there. They asked her to bring me downtown because the girl had said that she was with me. And so they went through the questions of asking me about what happened. So, and I said, yeah. And then he said, did you have the gun? I said, yes. And did you shoot the gun? And he said, I said, yes. I said, but I wasn't trying to kill nobody or nothing like that. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. Somebody, is dead. And so after that, they took you down, go through all the fingerprinting and everything like that. And my grandmother get me an attorney. And so the first time I had my the hearing, the judge said he didn't want to hear anything. All he said was that you be bound over to the electric chair. The sentence would be bound over to the electric chair. Of course, my grandmother, everybody was screaming and hollering.
Bound over to the electric chair.
Grand jury. After that hearing, I was bound over to the grand jury, which would be to determine electric chair sentence, and that was just it.
This is in Alabama?
In Alabama.
Okay.
And so everybody was, all my family was saying, oh, because I was black and the young man was white. So that was
And
a
how old
big
were
thing.
you?
I was 18.
18. Okay.
And so okay, this is it. Everybody in the family. My grandmother was praying, saying, no, my parents and stuff was saying, we're going to send you away because they're not finna kill my daughter. They're not finna fry her like that. And the judge's words, that he was going to fry my eyes out. That's what was the statement. Fry my eyes like grapes until they pop out. So
Wait a minute. Say this slow.
I
The
was-
judge said
the judge.
he was going to fry you until
right.
your eyes pop out like grapes. Okay, I wanted to make sure that I heard you say
So
that.
my grandmother couldn't even come into the courtroom because I think some type of issues that her and the judge had, so he didn't like her, so she stood outside the courtroom door the whole time. So that was the end of this time. The next time I go to the grand jury, that will be on the table to see whether or not I will be sentenced over to go to the electric chair.
Lord have mercy.
So I had to be on like what they call, it's like a probationary, but you're not on probation, but you can't go anywhere, you can't leave town, you got your bond and all that, and you can't leave the city or the state. And so it was about 9 months, almost to a year later, the judge had a heart attack let me back up. My grandmother was praying, the church was praying, because here I am, a young girl. Mm-hmm. They didn't want me to be sentenced to, be electrocuted.
Were you in church at all then?
No, I wasn't in church. I wouldn't even have a sense of to pray. Everybody else was praying and fasting, and I was saying, I'm
whatever.
drinking and still partying, just ignorant, didn't have a clue, wasn't thinking about God. If I had to go I was just gonna die. If I was dying, I was just dying. I actually just gave up on whatever life was gonna be about. It didn't matter anymore. And so I started drinking even more because that was over my head.
Because you felt like if I'm going to go, I might as well go in a blast.
The newspaper, everybody's talking about me. So, Darlene killed the white man. That was the big thing. Darlene killed the white man. So in the neighborhood, that was like, so my grandmother had to live with that. And so the church went on a fast. So after the fast, I was supposed to went to court August the 6th. And that night, they called and said that particular judge had a heart attack. And that they're going to get it into another judge's courtroom, which they did. And he didn't think that, he thought it was too harsh. So they found out that it wasn't murder. They was trying to break it down because I was a first offender to manslaughter because of the transaction that Alabama didn't have a self-defense law. It wasn't like I was in a deliberation trying to kill somebody,
right.
But it was more of a racial thing that was actually taking place. So they couldn't prove that I actually murdered him because, come to find out, it was he had a car accident. Oh, okay. So they're saying the gunshot wounds caused the car accident.
But they don't know whether the gunshot wound actually killed
right.
him.
So that's where it went down to. They were saying it was going to go to a manslaughter. While I was in the courtroom, they said that the electric chair sentence was off the table.
Okay.
It was no longer on the table anymore. So we all praise God for that.
Lord have mercy.
Because it wasn't that. So now it's looking like I was for 25 years sentence.
Okay.
And so while I'm sitting, we're still in there, right before they got ready to say, I'm going to serve 25 years, someone came and let my attorney know that a law had been passed where I can do, on a manslaughter, first time offender, 15 split 3. So
15 split 3.
I would do 15 years. I would have a 15-year sentence, split 3. Okay. That means I would only serve 3 years in prison. So that was a long way from 25 years.
Yeah, a long way from the electric chair, too. Yeah.
And the electric chair. So my grandmother was in the courtroom, and the family was there. So the judge, after they did sentence me to 3 years, and I would have the 15, I would be on papers for the rest of the time. And they asked me what did I have to say to the family that was in there. And after I realized when I saw my grandmother and I saw the family that was there, I just asked them, before I can even do my time, I wanted to ask them to forgive me. I wasn't saved, but I realized that I had taken a person's life or caused a person's life to be taken, whether about what I did, however, I wanted them to forgive me. And so the pastor, the young man's father was a pastor, and he did. At that day, he said that he forgave me. And I began to serve time, and got on my way to prison. I was in a car accident. It was like my life was just, everything was just happening. On my way, the guy that was driving the van, he had to rush back or whatever he was trying to get back to do. And we were in a car accident on our way. Well, in jail on our way to be
on your way to the prison while you was in the prison van.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the fugitive, wasn't it? Like you could have
Right.
got out and ran off.
But when I was, and the lady, it was a pregnant lady that was there, and I could see that she was getting ready to go into the glass, and I laid across her. You know, we was all shackled and whatever, but my hand is like this, so I was able to pull my hand out of the handcuffs, and I was able to lay across her in the van
To keep her from
going to the thing. So I kind of went into the fence part of it because we sit on the front of that. And I got to Julia Tutwiler prison. We got there. We went to the hospital first, and then we went to we stayed there. They kept us there like a day. Those of us that wasn't really serious injured, but the girl, she was, because she was pregnant. And we stayed in the infirmary, and then I started serving my time.
And so you did 3 years.
I did 3 years. Well, when I got there, the warden, it was Warden Hare and Warden Lomas, she knew that I was a young girl. And she said that she was going to make sure that I got the best out of it. She said, you're not going to just do time. You're not going to let time do you. You're going to do your time, but you're going to get something out of it. You're going to school. You're going to get involved. And I was looking at this lady like, well, I'm not doing none of that. I'm going to do what I want to do, because I'm still that mindset that I don't really care. At that time, they gave you a psych test to see where you were. And it was like I hated my mama. I hated black people, white people, mixed. I just hated everybody. I was just an angry little girl, and I was mad with the world. Didn't know why I was mad with, I just could understand what happened to me. Why was I there? But just God had people
around you
placed there. I mean, they were just people that were placed. And so when I got there, she said, I want to work in the factory. She said, you work in the factory, you're going to school. So I had already graduated from high school. I was a high school graduate. She said, you're going to go to college. So we stayed at a college there. So I started going to college. And I started working. She said, well, you can work. They had a program in Alabama called Free by Choice. And this program was to warn other kids not to come and do what you have done. And they submitted my name to be a part of that. And you went across the state of Alabama to schools, to churches. We went to Alcoa, aluminum places, just different places, talking to people. And that's what I did. I worked, I went to school, and I went out on free by choice programs. So basically my time was in jail, but I really wasn't in jail.
I see what you're saying.
I went out a lot more so than I did, and I even went to work release programs. I went through drug programs because I had an alcohol problem, and they just offered a lot. And after I realized through going through all those programs that I really wasn't that person, and that I really wanted to be somebody, and I never wanted to come back to prison. And at this time, I still didn't receive God. I still was saying, but God started speaking to me and saying, but when you come out, you won't be the same. And I started going to the little services. I started noticing people that were saying about Jesus. And my grandmother kept saying, Darlene, you got to repent. You got to repent. And I kept saying, oh, I'm in jail. I didn't think God would forgive me. Because I had to, all I remember that if you murder somebody, that was one of the commandments. So I just thought it was over, because I didn't know the Bible that well. I just thought my life was over. But I started going to the chapel services, and I started reading my Bible, and I started finding out that, and the first somebody I found out that murdered somebody was Moses. And I started realizing that God had something for Moses to do. And that's how I really started getting back on track. And I started reading the Word, and then I just started saying that I want to get my life together. But I really wasn't trying to get saved. I just wanted to get my life together. I wasn't come back to prison. So I worked and did everything I could do, because I said, I ain't coming back to prison no more. I don't care what they say, what to do. I work at a garbage truck. I do whatever. So I started working, and I'm kind of like a finicky person. I don't like nasty looking stuff. So I started working on the garbage detail, because I didn't want to be said that there was no job that I couldn't work, or I was above doing certain jobs. I saw people come back to prison, leave 3 months, come back, be out 6 months, come back. And I kept saying, God, if you give me a chance, I ain't coming back here. Just give me a chance. But that wasn't what he wanted. He wanted me to be saved. I needed something. You know, a lot of people think you can just go to prison and get out on your own and work. You can't work it on your own.
No,
So
you're
I
absolutely
needed
right.
Jesus, and I realized that, and I started repenting, and I got a relationship with God. And by that time, I really wasn't concerned about getting out.
Right.
At that time, I was out thinking about, okay, who can I help? So I started ministering to other people. I was still going on a free by choice program, and that's actually where I met my husband at. But you know, just going out, I was helping somebody else, and I started writing down goals about things I wanted to do when I got out of prison. You know, places I wanted to work, and I didn't want my life that I have done to hold me back.
Right. Stop right there just a minute, because you're saying something that's very, very important. Because there are inmates that are watching this program as you are, while we're talking, and when it comes on, they're going to be looking at this, or while they're in jail in the McCracken County Jail here in Paducah, and they're going to see you saying, while you were in prison, you were writing down some goals.
I wrote down on the back of a daily planner. There was a daily planner that came out that asked you, in this particular daily planner, it was saying setting goals and where you think you would be. So I'm in prison, and I didn't have any children. I didn't have a husband, and I wanted to travel. And those are the things I wanted: a husband, I wanted a child, I wanted to do traveling in ministry. I wanted to evangelize. Now, I wasn't a preacher, but for some reason I just wanted to tell people about Jesus. That's what I wanted to do. And so
And you wrote all these
I
things
wrote
down?
out, and I wanted a job, but I wanted jobs that didn't, I felt like just because you went to prison don't mean you can't work on jobs that, you know, when you wear a suit and you look cute.
Right.
That's the way I thought.
And that's okay.
And so that's what I wanted to do.
That's all right.
I wanted to still sit in offices. I had a best friend that worked at a bank. We were best friends, and she would still write me, and I kept saying, I could have been like that. And I kept thinking, I'm still going to be like that.
Right.
And so I was in school, so I started learning about things, computers, and I started getting very good in computers because I started thinking to myself, okay, what's going on out there? And I would read magazines, and I would write down, I would look at things that they were doing on the outside to see how I could get into the society again.
Right.
And so I started listening to people. I started being around like the warden secretary. I started being around people that looked like they were doing something. I would listen to children that was in college and stuff, and that's what I did. I wrote down things. I kept journals of things I wanted to do when I got out.
And how important do you think that helped you when you did get out?
Well, it was a rehabilitation for me, because then I kept looking at those things every day. I just kept looking at them, and you know, people kept saying, "Girl, they ain't gonna give you no jobs." And people come in from the outside world would tell you that because you had a felon, you can't have this job, you can't do it. And I would hear that, and I would think, well, God,
Right.
I know, God, that there has to be something different. Why would you allow Moses to come back and do different? I just kept believing God. And so I started having what they call crazy faith. So I believed God. And God started ministering to me that there was nothing impossible.
Right.
And I started reading about that. I started looking up that word impossible. And I started thinking nothing impossible. That means that you can do anything that you put your mind to. And they would say a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I said, now, that can't be impossible, God. So I started thinking when I got out. So I did get out on the 4th of July. In 1991, I got on the 4th of July. And I didn't have any friends that were doing the right things. All my friends were still drug addicts, dope dealers. Everybody was still doing the same thing. And I knew that if I got back in that environment,
Right.
I knew where I was going. So everybody said, we're going to party for you. And I said, no, I won't be there.
Right.
And I started praying to God to give me, I met with some church people, and I called all of them when I got out, and I love to cook, and I cooked, and everybody came over to my house, and we had prayer, and we had a good time. I left all my old friends. I left my family, because some of my family members were still doing the same thing. I wasn't a part. I just left everybody. I actually just went into exile.
And let me stop you right there again, because this is so important. You're saying a lot of good stuff here that people need to hear. Your mind's got to be made up before you get out. When you get out, there's some people you're going to have to cut loose. You have to cut loose, even if you got to be by yourself. And you had dreams of not just getting a job, but you wanted some type of specific job. Job that's going to make you feel good about yourself and feel good about going. Okay, and now because we only have probably less than 10 minutes. Told you time gonna go by pretty fast. But I want. How did you get into being what you are now? That you're educating
Coordinator.
How do you get there? Being an ex-felon, being a convicted. What was your conviction?
Manslaughter.
Manslaughter. How do you get to where you are now?
My husband is actually how I got to work for the company that I work for. My husband was like the same way, had the same testimony.
He did 18
He did
calendar
18 years and 6 months. And so when we hooked up, we started going, there was a young man that remembered him and got him to a program where it was another to help, give chances to people that were locked up. So it's a type program to help people when they get out and how to rehabilitate them while they're locked up. So I helped start that program, which was females, and he was doing with the men.
Now this in Alabama?
This is in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
So when we got out of Alabama, I worked at jobs like temporary services. They would ask me, on there, you've been locked up. I would tell them the truth.
Right.
Because I felt like if the job wasn't for me, I didn't take no for an answer.
Exactly.
I sold myself. When I went to those jobs, I talked to them. That was a lot of turn downs. I had a lot of turn downs. I had to work at cleaners and stuff, but I knew that was just a stepping stone for me. And I went to temporary agencies, and I just worked hard. And after that, my husband started working for this prison. Then he told them about me. And then I started working with the young ladies, and that's how it came. But I went through a lot of different jobs and temporary agencies, but I had a trade. I love to type. So that's what I did. I typed. And therefore, then I got into counseling. Then I got into, I traveled with the same company. I've been to different states, and I picked up from different states. I learned to do things. I became an insurance agent. I had to be fingerprinted, and God just blessed all that to where everything that I thought would be against me, it wasn't against me because God had cleaned my record. He had restored me, and I wasn't even worried about it. And I just kept moving on. And then I moved back to Nashville, and I started working. And that's when we got there. We just
now you said you got out of prison in
1991.
Okay.
And I started working for a local prison in 1994. 1994 we started working for them. 95.
So you've been out of prison for 17 years, about 17 years now, and
haven't been back.
And you're doing great.
Haven't had a desire. I left all my friends, and that's the big thing, Pastor Walton, is that I left my family. I mean, I actually, because they were doing wrong, friends, they weren't my friends anymore.
Right.
Though that was the old Darlene. That wasn't who I wanted to be. And I had another go, and I just kept going forward.
And something that you said, and I'm hoping that we can have more of that here in this city, programs that help ex-offenders to get jobs. You had that, and that helped you. It helped you, and it helped your husband, because what we are dealing with, and I think it's all over, especially Kentucky, but it's all over the place, where there are jobs that will not hire ex-felons. So there are some laws that prevent ex-felons from getting in certain places. But here you are. You've gone through all of that, and have you had your sentence, your crime expunged? Have you had your record expunged? Nothing. But you are working a good job, a job that you like, and you're making a difference in other people's lives, and you still have this record. And these are the things that we're trying to get people to understand, because there are so many people close the doors on us. So many people, like you said, you've had opportunities and you've had doors shut, but then you had some doors open, and here you are.
Yes.
What do you think would have been the outcome if you had not changed your mind, and if doors had just shut on you, if you had nobody opening the doors for you at all? What do you think the outcome would have been?
I would have went back into the streets.
Back into the streets, and ultimately probably death or prison. But because you changed your mind, and because you allowed God to come into your life, and He opened some doors for you, and He touched people's heart, and people gave you an opportunity.
They gave me a second chance. And that's all some people are looking for, is a second chance. Not everybody go. Sometimes you have young people that go, and they just never had anybody to tell them. And that's what I do every day. I teach and tell people the guys that are locked up, that you can make it.
Right.
And I tell them the same thing I'm telling you is what I tell them, and you'd be surprised of people, the knowledge. I think a lot of people don't understand, because a person committing a felon doesn't mean that they're stupid
Right.
or they're not smart.
Right.
Most of your most intelligent people are behind bars.
Exactly.
And they may have a criminal mind, but a rehabilitated criminal mind to come and work for you is a smart mind.
Yes, right.
And not everybody wants to steal and rob, and you just give them hope.
Right.
To show them. Do you know how many young men no one ever told them that you could succeed,
Right.
that you can make it.
Exactly.
Some people are afraid of success because they never had it. They don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's feel. But I feel there are more jobs of people, not thinking it's a liability, but thinking as an asset to your community. If you hire somebody, you may have one. You may have one. Then you may have one that may take your company to a whole nother level.
Exactly, and that's what I like what you said, because we've said it before. Some of the people that are incarcerated, they made a mistake. They did some things, but what they need from society and from the people that are out there is, like you said, a second chance, just some hope. You can make it. You
Yes.
don't have to be like this, and that's why it's so necessary for people like you and I, especially with your testimony, with your background, with where you came from, your mindset, and now looking at you now. What would have happened if somebody had just closed the door on you? What would have happened if you had gotten that electric chair sentence, and that man would have fried you? You would not have been in contact with the people that you have helped over these 17 years, because God knows you have inspired people, you have helped people, you have motivated people, you've given people hope. What would have happened if your life had been taken, and because of some man and some law? But because laws also changed and people gave you opportunity, now you're able to walk in your destiny. And this is why it's so important for you to say what you're saying, because people need to hear that we're not all criminals.
Exactly.
That if you just give us a second chance, like you said, I like what you say, we can take your company to another level. I think some of the most dedicated, most loyal, and best employees can be those that have come out of prison and put in places where they never would have thought that they would have been in, just to give them a second chance. If there's anything else that you want to say, we got about 30 seconds. Anything else that you want the people to hear from you?
That if you look at me, you know that God is a second chance God. And there are people out there that you need to give a second chance to.
That is good. And that is really all that we ever try to do with this program, because we have people looking at this, people that are incarcerated, and people hopefully job people that are employers, I'll put it that way, that own businesses. This is what we are doing. This is why we do this program. And we want to thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And I told you time's going to go by pretty fast. Thank you again for looking at Life After Lockup. Tell somebody that is on. Again, Paducah2.org, 575-3823 is our phone number. Thanks again for watching Life After Lockup, and you have a marvelous day.